Guys, what's going on? James here, and I know I'm debuting 2 videos in one night, but today is going to be the start of my official Alliance of American Football content, the AAF, and the team I have chosen to support and make videos about is the Orlando Apollos. I don't necessarily have any Orlando Apollos merchandise right now, but it is on the way, don't worry. But I decided in today's video that I'm going to review Week 1 and Week 2 of the Orlando Apollos games recently, and oh boy, they're doing good. They're 2-0, and I'm going to fill you guys in on some of the more star-heavier types of players on this roster, both on offense and on defense, as I talk about the games. Kind of give you guys some players to look out for, and some guys who might potentially end up on NFL teams in the near future. I can't mention the Orlando Apollos without mentioning their head coach, and it is Steve freaking Spurrier. This guy is a legend in the state of Florida. He played as a player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Florida University. He was a head coach at Florida University where he won a national title, mind you. He has coached all over the country, but most of his coaching and playing time has been in the state of Florida, and he's returned at the age of 73. That's right, he is 73 years old, and he's the head coach of the Orlando Apollos, and he's already led them to a 2-0 record. Pretty darn impressive, if you ask me, but will he last longer than the inaugural season? That remains yet to be seen, but I'm pretty excited about it. He's done an awesome job coaching up the offense and the defensive side of the ball, and I'm very excited to see how the Apollos finish out this season with him at the helm. This roster gets a little bit tricky once you start to break into it, because a lot of it is a kind of rotational type of system, considering these guys have never played together before at all, and they've had very limited time before they got ready for their inaugural season. Yes, they did have a couple of months to have training camps and whatnot beforehand, but this is a brand new team. None of these guys have barely played with each other at all. None of these coaches have coached this team together at all, but there are a couple of nice players on offense. Mainly, the 4 players that I want to highlight are quarterback Garrett Gilbert, running back Akeem Hunt, and wide receivers Jalen Marshall and Charles Johnson. Talking about Garrett Gilbert first, and this guy has been one hell of an impressive quarterback, okay? He's been in the NFL for the past 4 years. He's a former Super Bowl champion, mind you. Obviously, he didn't really start any games during that time, but he still has a ton of NFL experience. He came right in and took command of this Orlando's Apollos offense. He's been passing the ball a lot. He has a receiving touchdown. The Orlando Apollos actually in Week 1 pulled a Philly special. I don't really like calling it that, but that's what we're going to call it for the purposes of this video. They pulled a Philly special where Jalen Marshall threw a touchdown to Garrett Gilbert. This man has been electric. He has poise, he has pocket ability and pocket awareness. He knows how to throw all types of passes to all different types of wide receivers, and he's just an overall really nice quarterback for the AAF. I expect him to be on an NFL roster soon, and that makes me really kind of sad, because I really want to see Garrett Gilbert continue to tear up this league and just shred the defenses that he has faced up against from week to week. In terms of the running back situation on the Orlando Apollos, it's a little bit more trickier, as guys have really been rotating around at that position, but I've been most impressed by running back Akeem Hunt, not to be confused with Kareem Hunt. He has had to deal with that situation before, but much like Garrett Gilbert, he has been in the NFL for the past couple of seasons from 2014 to 2017. He did not play last season, and then he's most recently obviously signed with the Orlando Apollos, and I think he's looked most impressive out of all of the running backs that have been playing so far. He's been getting an awesome average yards per carry. He hits the hole, he hits it hard. He is able to make a lot of guys miss in open space with really nice juke moves and redirections and whatnot. He's been an awesome running back. I want to see him get more carries for this team. The offensive line play has been so-so, but they've been more better in run blocking rather than pass blocking, so I think that if you get a running back like Akeem Hunt going, that'll just do wonders for your passing game and wonders for your offense in general. He has been the most impressive running back in my opinion. The first wide receiver that I want to talk about, it might be my favorite offensive player on the team. I love this guy. It is former Ohio State Buckeyes wide receiver Jalen Marshall, who left college early to go to the NFL and play a couple of seasons for the New York Jets, where his time was marred by not getting much playing time as well as dealing with a handful of injuries. He would then leave the New York Jets, not play for a season, and then go to the Orlando Apollos, where he has been dynamite. Okay, this guy has been electric. He's been a wonderful deep threat for this Orlando Apollos team so far, and he's been probably one of the most, if not the most versatile player on this Orlando Apollos offense. Okay, you can use redirections and sweep plays with him. He can throw the ball. Like I said earlier, he threw a touchdown to Garrett Gilbert. You can hit him on the deep ball. You can hit him on the short ball. You can hit him on the intermediate pass. Whatever you ask Jalen Marshall to do on the offensive side of the ball, he's going to do it, and he's going to do it well. He's another guy who I expect not to stay in this league for very long. I expect him to get a call up to the NFL very soon, because if he keeps on playing the way he's been playing these past 2 weeks, he's going to be getting calls very soon. He is the most fluid, most dynamic player on this Orlando Apollos offense right now, and I think that he is awesome. Talk about is wide receiver Charles Johnson. Now, Charles Johnson is probably one of the more older veterans on this offense and just on this team in general. He's 29 years old, and he's been in the NFL since 2013. He's been in that league for a long time, and he's getting a second chance here in Orlando. And if I said that Jalen Marshall is your deep threat, speedy type of wide receiver, then Charles Johnson is your big possession type wide receiver. Just throw it up and he will jump up at the high point of the ball and grab it and come down with it, okay? This guy has got size, he's got hands, he's got good route running ability, and it's very confusing that he's not been called up to the NFL at this point, because he's been a starter in certain situations for guys like the Minnesota Vikings, among other teams. So it's very confusing as to why he is not in the NFL right now, but I think that this guy's an awesome red zone threat. He's an awesome possession wide receiver. He can pretty much go up against the best cornerbacks in the AAF right now, and he can probably beat most of them, okay? His hands are that good, his size is that good, and his leaping ability is that good, okay? The wide receiver combination of Jalen Marshall and Charles Johnson is awesome, and whenever you pair that up with the running back Akeem Hunt and quarterback Garrett Gilbert, you get an offense that has dominated this past 2 weeks of AAF football. And you know, Steve Spurrier, he's been at the front of it, and I'm just really happy to see how this Orlando Apollos team finishes out this season. On the defensive side of the ball, there's really 3 players that I'm most excited about. The first one is Terrence Garvin, who took my heart at week 1 with his 2 interceptions. He's a linebacker, mind you, and he had 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6. The other 2 players are both in the secondary, one of them being Keith Reaser, the cornerback, and the other one being Will Hill, the safety. So let's talk about them real quick. Keith Reaser is a 27-year-old cornerback who has played both for the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and he just recently had a pick 6 for the Orlando Apollos in week 2. Now, I really like this guy. I think he's very good at man-to-man zone. He's really good at reading the quarterback's eyes and jumping routes when he needs to. He does have a little bit of a size problem. He's not the biggest cornerback, and he's not the tallest cornerback, but what he lacks in size and in weight, he makes up for it in hard playing ability. This guy will play his butt out every single game he gets a chance to play, okay? This guy has a ton of heart. He is fighting every single time he steps onto the field. He proves it by being at the ball wherever it may be. This guy has a nose for the ball. He's going to be there wherever it is thrown. He's really good, like I said, at reading the quarterback's eyes and anticipating routes and whatnot. He's probably the best cornerback on this Apollos team right now, and he's been pretty locked down, all things considered, so I think he's going to be an awesome piece for this secondary 100%. Then have linebacker Terrence Garvin, who's been in the league since 2013. He's 28 years old right now, one of the older players on this Apollos defense, and I think if you had team captains, Terrence Garvin would definitely be a team captain. Again, this guy has been playing out of his freaking mind since he's been playing for the Apollos so far. He had 2 interceptions in week 1 against Matt Sims and the Atlanta Legends, but you know, those guys aren't very good. And then in week 2 he almost had another interception. So this guy has been all over the place in terms of pass coverage, and in run defense he's been tackling like a machine. He's been everywhere the ball has been. He's been the leader of this linebacking core, and if I'm being honest, he's been the leader of this defense in general. I think he is probably the best player on this Apollos defense right now, and I'm excited to see how he finishes out this season and how he does in terms of tackles and interceptions, because honestly, he could finish leading the league in both categories. I know it's not very common for a linebacker to lead the league in interceptions and you know, especially in turnovers and whatnot, but man, I think it's pretty possible. And then finally, you have safety Will Hill, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens. He is in the AAF right now, and I'm very surprised as to why Will Hill is not in the NFL right now. He was doing some pretty darn good things with the Baltimore Ravens as a role player and as kind of a rotational type of safety. The man hits like a freaking freight train, okay? This guy will knock you out of your cleats. Not only is he good in pass coverage, he will destroy you in the run game. He's another guy who I think is going to be one of the leaders of this secondary. Both Will Hill and Keith Reaser, I think they are very good in pass coverage, and I think they're very good in run stopping as well. You pair both these guys up with a guy like Terrence Garvin who can really take control of an entire defense, and you have a very nice core of 3 players who can just really do good things in both pass coverage and in run defense. They're very versatile. They're probably 3 of the most versatile guys on this defense, and I think that they can take control and really make life a living hell for both the quarterbacks and the running backs of the other teams in the AAF. Apollo's first 2 games. In the inaugural game, by the way, the Orlando Apollos scored the first points ever of the league. I'm just saying that's a pretty big deal. They had the first turnover ever in the league. I'm just saying that's a pretty big deal. And they just dominated. They absolutely dominated the Atlanta Legends. Matt Sims threw a couple of really bad interceptions. He just had a bad game in general. And the Orlando Apollos just took control right away. Garrett Gilbert, Jalen Marshall, it was the connection of the night. Jalen Marshall had a touchdown throw to Garrett Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert had a touchdown throw to Jalen Marshall. Akeem Hunt got some good things going, running the ball as well. And of course, Terrence Garvin, he had 2 interceptions of his own. It was an awesome inaugural game for this team. Steve Spurrier, he was loving it. He was having a great time. The whole team was having a wonderful time. And the Orlando Apollos came out of week 1 very much dominant and very much at the top of the league. Now, you look at their second game versus the San Antonio Commanders, and man, let me tell you, this was a hell of a shootout, okay? Now, this was the game where Charles Johnson really broke out into his own, as well as Keith Reaser. Now, they both had pretty decent week 1 games, but man, did they have awesome week 2 games, okay? Garrett Gilbert continued to do Garrett Gilbert things, and that was throw the ball around very well. Akeem Hunt still managed to do some really good things in his own right running the ball. Jalen Marshall continued to do Jalen Marshall things, which was be a very good, speedy wide receiver. But Charles Johnson, he was probably the hero of the offensive side of the ball for the Orlando Apollos. He just had a wonderful, wonderful game. And on the defensive side of the ball, Keith Reaser, like I said earlier, he had a pick 6. He had a good game. Terrence Garvin continued to have a good game. And Will Hill continued to be a monster safety as well. They won the shootout. They were behind early on in the game, but they pulled out the win in the end, and the Orlando Apollos are now 2-0. That's pretty much the story up to this point. On the offensive side of the ball, you have guys like Garrett Gilbert, Charles Johnson, Jalen Marshall, and Akeem Hunt. On the defensive side of the ball, you have some hard-hitting, good coverage guys like Terrence Garvin, Will Hill, and Keith Reaser. What's going to happen the rest of the remaining 8 weeks of the AAF season and the Orlando Apollos season? Well, we're just going to have to wait and find out, see which players emerge, see which players fall down the ladder, and just see what happens. You know, the championship game is going to be after a couple of playoff games. I fully expect the Apollos to go at this point because they have looked absolutely amazing. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the AAF down in the comment section below. What did you think about the Orlando Apollos' first 2 games? What did you think about guys like Garrett Gilbert, Jalen Marshall, Charles Johnson, Akeem Hunt, Terrence Garvin, Will Hill, and Keith Reaser? Let me know what you think about all of those guys down in the comment section below. Do you think they should be in the NFL? If so, what team do you think they should be on? Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, and go Apollos!